Hey, it's me again. Now, you guys might have noticed that my last Minecraft Linkstorm was number one, part one. So you were probably expecting number two, part two for this. And I'll be honest, I don't know where that file went. So anyway, I'm in the same world, and I am trying to build an add-on to a city. I'll get into that later. Um, what I wanted to do is, you can tell I'm not playing right now. This thing is at double speed because I'm going to say that for every hour of Minecraft I play, I have about 30 minutes of something interesting to say. So, mm, how about that? These are like two of 8 bad guys I have seen just playing Minecraft recently. I'm still on hard mode. I prefer hard mode, but the enemies have been really scarce lately, and not just because I'm obviously in a well lit, mostly sectioned off part of a nascent city here, the old Bandai city, if you want to call it that. It's just that they're not out there. Usually, you can go riding out into a desert and get all kinds of shenanigans. Uh, but lately, it's just been sort of like the most boring time to walk around. I honestly have a higher threat level during the day because I never expect creepers during the day like I should. So anyway, what I'm doing here is I've got a little city, you can see it in the background there, and I've built it up out of a desert thing. And I want to make it bigger because this well is right behind this wall behind me. Because you've got the well, you got the entire village behind it. So I'm going to expand the village, get more villagers, get better trade, get more emeralds, and then profit. So I've got schematics down for this whole part of the city, and I'm just trying to lay the foundation out here. So I can make sure everything syncs up with what I've got on paper. And everything's going at double speed just because I wanted to go fast. So let's get into news articles. China's easing up on their one-child policy. I was surprised because it seems like kind of a sensible policy, even if it was unevenly enforced, and even if it resulted in a lot of baby girls getting selectively aborted. But with the exception of those really bad things, it was a sensible population control measure, which people kind of need to do. I mean, the greatest anti-aphrodisiac is, of course, having an industrialized, educated middle class. But if you're not going to have that, the one-child policy makes a lot of sense. Anyway, this is being done amidst concerns over a tapering labor force, elderly care, and the gender imbalance that's resulted from selective sex abortions. I mean, by the end of this decade, it is estimated that there will be some 24 million leftover men in China, a fact that's simultaneously kind of hot and really troubling. There has also been a proposal to abolish re-education through labor camp, and there was an article about a guy making holiday decorations who slipped a note in there to get out, but I can't find it. Okay, all right, I found it. Okay, you can read the letter, but the story is that it's so hard to find. I tried Google News with some choice phrases: China, labor camp, decorations, note, help. Now, and I talk a lot of shit about Google, but they know search, and I used Google. I found nothing. I tried Yahoo with a combination of the same phrases. These are my villagers. I fucking hate these guys. I do want more of them. Yes. Nothing. I got nothing there. I tried BBC. That failed. I went to the Guardian, the British newspaper that published the Snowden leaks. I got tons of unrelated results. My favorite was the 10 best interior design apps. Finally, I tried the Huffington Post, of all fucking places. They had a few articles, and some of them had like the images removed. I don't know enough about news sources on the internet to draw any conclusions about that. It's just strange that this article was so hard to find. FYI, I did try Bing after writing this initially, and it came right up. So good on Bing. Uh, let's see. Oh, there's this article about James Dean. He's a straight porn star, and that's really not my forte. But apparently, the dudes in regular, hey zombie, the hot dudes in straight porn are like these interchangeable, overly muscled types. Anyway, this guy's apparently hot in a way that women like, and it makes some dudes uncomfortable, and it sounds hilarious. But he's making porn that women prefer. I mean, If you're gonna watch porn with a woman, which is I hear, hello zombie, another thing that some people do, then I guess you should have an attractive guy in there who works for her. Like I don't. This ain't the wheel, motherfuckers. Like it seems like you wouldn't even have to try to discover that. Like it. How did that never occur to anyone? It's 2014. Anyway, speaking of that, I mean, look, if you're a dude and the dude in porn is threatening your sexuality, you are probably bisexual. You should probably see a sexy doctor and explore that a little bit. Oh, speaking of that, Tom Daley, the incredibly hot swimmer from the 2012 Olympics, is dating a dude right now. And idiots are saying that he's gay, but in the YouTube video announcement, he says that he's still into women. He's bisexual. The word you're looking for is bisexual. It's not a complicated concept. Like, is this blowing anyone's mind? I heard about an article headline the other day where it was Alan Cumming talks about being bisexual and being married to a man. And it's like, you might as well, like, I like pastries. If I marry a donut, no one's going to write an article. Chris talks to me about how he loves donuts whenever he's a guy who likes pastries. And it's like, there's nothing contradictory about these facts. It's just like one of these things is perfectly consistent with the other. Regardless, you can see I've completely fucked my calculations here, and that's why I'm doing a layout before I build these buildings. So it'd be super fucking fucked if I had not done that. So West Point has developed this software, Orca, to analyze terrorist social networks and group roles. Now police are applying it to gangs, getting probabilities about what members of a community are in a gang and the roles within them. Orca has the ability to usefully predict gang behavior and let police intelligently dismantle criminal organizations from the top down. It can also be used to assign guilt by association for political enemies, justify harassment of innocent people who simply know people who are criminals, and to model activities against non-criminal groups like protesters. If it's used as a tool to assist in stopping crime, Orca sounds great. If it's used to allow police to leverage their power unwisely, then it's very bad. Given that police are such notoriously principled, reasonable individuals, more occupied with stopping all crime than padding their budget by levering their institutional power against those who can't resist them, you know, like a fluid which seeks to prosecute as many warm bodies as possible by flowing to low resistance areas and then acting like they're saving the rest of their territory from the criminal hordes below. But that's not the case, thank God, so good on Orca. Those were the only two articles I had left, actually, because a lot of this was just me yelling at villagers. Because, Jesus fucking Christ, villagers are stupid. I hate them. You notice when I went through my little romp through the village earlier, I actually took out the doors to the village that I was using to section things off, and I just replaced them with blocks to keep villagers from getting themselves fucking killed. Because, stupid fucking villagers. So, it's at this point that I'm beginning to realize that, what I have built here, these central squares are 15 by 15, inclusive. And the structure that I'm building is actually larger than the platform I've leveled. This is not a naturally occurring level space within Minecraft. I had to build this up from a slope that goes down. You can see when I get to the edge that it goes it's much lower. And I filled it with fucking sand of all things. So whenever I do realize my mistake and I realize I'm going to go back under and build a sewer, I'm not going to just have to remove a couple of blocks. Everywhere I need a space, I'm going to have to remove 4 blocks of piled on sand. So I'm fucked for that. And me playing this right now has not realized that yet. I'm going to do it in a little bit, and you're going to see me like count shit off and generally quietly lose my shit at double speed. So, this is going to be hilarious. So what else do we have? Just right off the top of my head, just nerd stuff. Oh, Alan Turing. He was finally fucking pardoned. For those of you who don't know, he was a mathematician. He set a lot of the foundation for computers. He's one of many guys who did it, but he was one of the big ones of the 20th century. Also in World War II, he worked as a code breaker. He was British, by the way. He's English, I think. So he worked with the Allies breaking German codes, and he did such a great job of it, we actually had to pretend that codes weren't broken, so that the Germans, because, right, if you decode everything, the Germans know their code's broken, they just change it again. But if you only decode some things, then you can manipulate German actions, and they don't know you've broken the code, they just think you're better than you are. So anyway, he was instrumental in that stuff, did a lot of computational theory. He's Alan Turing, so if you've ever heard of the Turing test, that's him, baby. So anyway, he was a homosexual guy, and after the war was over, when he wasn't needed to secure the safety and liberty of the free world anymore, he was brought up on charges of sexual immorality, which is basically just being a gay dude, and he was sentenced to chemical castration. About a year after that, he killed himself. And so the story goes, right? He injects an apple with cyanide, and he takes a bite out of it. He dies, and the world keeps on turning. No one knows. No one cares. He's just some faggot to them. So anyway, years pass, and you have Apple, and Apple's designing computers. If you didn't know that. And they need a logo because they're just a small company right now. And so they design a logo that is an apple, right? With a single bite out of it, made from a rainbow. And it's a really interesting story about paying homage to one of the fundamental forces behind the creation of computers. Something that I think we can agree we all like. If you're watching me on the internet on your computer play a video game that I have uploaded to the internet, I think you're behind computers. I think you and I have that in common. So it's nice that they would do that. They would make that sort of fundamental injustice to a guy who brought a lot of good things into the world, a part of their identity as a company. Now that's not true. That's not true at all. The real story behind Alan Turing dying is that he put the cyanide in a bottle of wine. He drank that, and the apple was actually a chaser, because apparently cyanide's pretty bitter. And the Apple logo is just a weird coincidence. They hired some jagoff graphic designer to make the design, and he's like, let's go with fruit. Fruit's great, and then an apple's got a good shape. An apple with the bite out of it is distinctive. You put the colors in it, and it's small enough that you can print it onto a computer case. And it's also it's recognizable when you put it on the side of a computer case. And it's also recognizable when it's on a 20, 30-foot billboard. It's a scalable design that's very distinctive. But I like the made-up story. It's obviously a lot more romantic. It paints Apple in a nicer light. I have no love or hate for Apple. I'm not sure how people do feel strongly about it, one way or the other. But getting to the news part of this story, Alan Turing was pardoned recently by the British government, and there was some resistance to that. He'd been rendered an official apology earlier, and the people who didn't want him to be pardoned pointed out that there were a lot of guys who were prosecuted under those laws, guys who were no less human than Turing and no less deserving of a pardon. So it's a gesture, it's a concrete gesture. That's my secret way for opening up that door. But it's a good one, and I appreciate it. I'm glad they did it. And maybe they can do it for the rest of those guys, because those guys did nothing wrong, you know? Anyway, that's the last little news bit I have. This is me trying to look at what I've done, not realizing my computer is shit, and I actually haven't accomplished all that much. But you can kind of see the rest of the city from here. It's spawned on a hill, so this is actually the natural top of a naturally spawned building. And so hungry, baked potato. And that's it, so maybe I'll see you next week. We'll see.